This is my review for Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. In this one, a group of kids on a psychiatric ward are getting plagued with dreams about Freddy Krueger, and possibly this will bode ill for all of them. But for returning character Nancy Thompson. Yes, Nancy's back. She's now a junior psychiatrist, and it's not long before she's galvanizing these kids into fighting back against Freddy as a group. So this film is more in line with the first movie than the second one. The only difference being there's now a lot more group work in terms of the fight back against Freddy. In the first film, there was a friendship circle, but they were extremely disjointed in terms of how they returned fire. Not here. Now, I'm a bit hazy on whether these kids are in the psychiatric hospital because of their Freddy dreams, or whether they had different issues on the outside and now they're starting to get visited by Freddy, because it's implied that at least one of the girls had a drug problem on the outside and that's why she's been committed. But probably it's a bit of a mix and match. This is my first time through the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and I'd always heard that 1 and 3 were the pierre de la résistance of Nightmare films. That was definitely true for the first film, which is great. But when it comes to this one, I can say it's also great. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I watched it twice this week, not just because it was really good. There's so many details in these films that I almost feel like I have to watch them a second time sometimes just to have a chance of reviewing them properly. It's either that or sit there with a pen and paper the first time through, but I don't want to watch a film the first time like that. So, if you want 3 reasons why this film succeeds: story, characters, dream sequence, all completely on point. In terms of the characters, all of the group impressed me really. There's going to be spoilers now, by the way, because I'm going to mention people who die and stuff like that, so you have been warned. But even the 2 characters who die quite early, it's like they're deliberately given scenes of dialogue just before that, so that when they do go, it'll mean something, and it does. And later on, the deaths that occur near the end, every single one of those resonated with me by that point. I was like, why has nobody mentioned that Taryn and Will have not come back? And Nancy dying was a real gut punch. I did not expect that at all. I thought, well, now that she's come back for the 3rd one, she might stay in them for a while, but no, apparently not. But in terms of the others, I don't even know where to start. The girl Taryn, her transformation with the dual switchblades, and I'm bad. I mean, that was really cool. And the kid as well, who's like a big RPG fan, and he manages to turn himself into a wizard who can fire green bolts. That was just so weird and out there. It was just terrific. The kid who follows that nurse into the side room or something, so because he's hoping he's going to be able to sleep with them. I mean, you know what? If I'd been getting visited by Freddy for the past few weeks, and then one day a really hot blonde nurse beckons me into some cupboard, I'd smell a rat personally. But then again, I'm not a teenage boy anymore, and I think teenagers are generally more optimistic when it comes to those type of situations. But yeah, I gave him up for dead, actually, for a long time in the film. I'm absolutely shocked that he survived the movie when other people died who were still alive at the point when he'd been abducted. But yeah, Kincaid was good. I loved his snark. But the absolute standout was Patricia Arquette's Kirsten. I mean, the first time I watched the movie, didn't notice her as much, because I kept thinking she was going to die at any point. So I wasn't really taking in the performance as much. But the second time around, I thought she was absolutely terrific. Definitely my favourite character in the series so far, even more so than Nancy. And I'm shocked as well that she doesn't come back for the 4th one. I did sort of look into what the 4th one was about briefly on Wiki, and that's a real shame, because she was brilliant in this film. And I'm guessing that if they'd have known that she wasn't going to come back, then they would have killed her and kept Nancy on. But yeah, damn it, Patricia, why did you have to do that? She was good in True Romance as well. That's the only other film that I've seen this girl in, and I've not seen anything else apart from that. Our paths have not crossed since the mid-90s. One character I didn't like was Nancy's dad. He was great in the first film, but in this one they've turned him into this drunken, cowardly slob who just sits at the bar and mourns his wife's death. I mean, I get you'd be sad about that, but come on, move on. Your daughter needs you. That's just pathetic. And the woman who is like this really old, miserable woman in the psychiatric ward is always putting the kids down. God, I hoped that Freddy would give it to her bad in this film at some point, and just didn't happen. So yeah, I'm not going to call it a negative mark or anything like that, but God, I wanted to see her get it. The story is expertly told. It's so unpredictable. It'd make a great novelisation. I don't know if there is one, but I think the part where things really start to take off for me was when all the characters come together as a group and start talking about Freddy openly. I mean, the film was good before then, but it really takes off after that. And I love the climatic battle where they use Kristen's abilities to go into the dream world together, whoever's left that is anyway. The only bit I didn't like is this whole idea that Freddy's mother was raped by like 100 guys in this bell tower or something like that, and that's how Freddy was created. I mean, I didn't need that. You know, I don't mind the nun character sort of haunting Neil as a ghost and chatting with him for whatever reason, but no, this new origin, just didn't need it. I was perfectly happy with Freddy just being some random evil guy, worked in a boiler room, and he's just evil because, you know, I mean, can you imagine if in Halloween 5 or whatever sequel, they suddenly announced that, hey, you know, Michael's dad isn't his dad. His mum was actually raped by all these really evil guys on holiday, and their sperm all moulded together to create the ultimate evil, Michael Myers. God, that would be bloody awful. So no, didn't need that at all. You know what, let's talk about the sound, because the sound's good in this film. Again, didn't really notice it in the second film, but in the first film there was this creepy tune that played all through the movie. It comes back here at the start of this one, and I thought, oh great, that's back. And I think it was just teasing me, because I don't think I heard it more than the once. There's this other good tune that plays during the opening sequence when Freddy's chasing Kristen. Is it Kristen or Kirsten? I think might have said Kirsten earlier. Pretty bad, given the fact I just got done saying that this is my favourite character from the 3 films so far. But you know what? We don't have Kristen and Kirsten in the UK, really. I think it's more of an American name. I've never met anybody called Kristen or Kirsten, but I think it's Kristen in this case. I'm going with Kristen. So yeah, there's a good tune that plays when she's getting chased during the opening part. And at the end of the movie, there's this song that plays that's specifically written for this film. I like it when films get their own song and they don't just rip off a pop song. I still think my all-time favourite two are the Maniac Cop 2 rap and He's Bad, the Man Behind the Mask that plays at the end of Friday Part 6. But this was a good one as well, and I especially enjoyed it the second time around. The first time it was just kind of okay, but the second time I was like, yeah, this is a really catchy song. I'd like to make a mixtape, actually, of all great horror songs that play on the end of movies that are specifically written for that movie. That's 3 I've got now. If I get to about 8 or 10 or whatever, I'd like to put that together. But what's the most fun to talk about these films are the little details that play out during the dream sequences. I mean, there is so much creativity just flowing through the veins of this film. It's unbelievable. And sometimes it's the most inconsequential little thing that's got nothing to do with the story as well, like the cooked pig that's randomly on this table and it gives Kristen a little start. Later on, I love it when Freddy shows his chest and you can see all the screaming souls of his victims just sort of dying to get out. That was really clever. I like as well the room that encloses in on the group meeting, and the walls are really hot to touch and you think they're going to get squashed as F. And I like how in every one of these films, the boiler room seems to manifest itself in a different way. So in the first film, it was almost like a little mini maze. And in the second film, it almost existed in reality itself, kind of in the basement of that house. And then this third one, it's just one giant open air room with a pipe leading down to that bit of level land. And I like how that kid is sort of spread eagled over that lava pit that just reminds me of the lava pit from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, actually. The kid, if he wasn't mute, he could have lain there just going, oh, Num Shabai, oh, Num Shabai. But easily my favourite effect of all is the Freddy worm. I mean, that was just, for 1980s, that is just a great effect. It really worked. And at the point where Freddy retracts his head, I thought that we would see Kristen's legs as bones, but I'm guessing that he was waiting to devour her completely before he sort of ate her up, but he should have just eaten her as he was going along, and then he could have taken her out in the movie. So definitely a missed opportunity there. I like the bones in the car yard as well. It was a bit hokey at first watching him fight the cop, but the point at the end where he sort of goes, I mean, that was just totally out of the Evil Dead and really, really funny. Brilliant kill with Philip, where he's sort of, I don't know if he's using his veins and stretching them out and keeping him as a puppet that way. Gruesome to look at, but very, very clever. I don't know how he gets through that door, though. There's one point where he's sort of sleepwalking and he just passes through the door like a ghost. That kind of confused me a little bit, but I don't want to overthink it as well. I don't know what's going on with the ending as well. Every one of the endings to these movies is confusing in some way or another, and it's fun to kind of puzzle out what they mean. And this one, a light goes on in this little toy house. Is that meant to be Nancy's ghost? I'm not sure, but maybe. And I can't finish the review without mentioning the fact that Lawrence Fishburne is in this film playing an orderly. He's got nothing to do compared to everybody else in the cast. It's the most boring role out of everybody, but I guess this was one of his earlier roles. It's weird, isn't it, how Johnny Depp was in the first film. That was one of his early roles. Third film, they got Lawrence Fishburne. Like I alluded to earlier, I did have a sneaky look at the cast list for the fourth film on Wikipedia, and I didn't think to go far down the cast list to see if Lawrence Fishburne was on there, but I'm guessing he's not. So just one and out for Lawrence. Right, to sum up then, yeah, this film is absolutely amazing. I can't imagine I'm going to see a Nightmare on Elm Street film as good as this one. I can see why people really adore it. It is a terrific movie, and let's get to the bag of terror. I think it's going to be an avalanche of axes today, I really do. I'm preparing myself. Oh! Yeah, there's a lot. Maybe I should just take the axes out of the bag instead of dropping them on myself. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. 4.5 bloody axes for Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors out of 5. That's almost masterpiece territory, but not quite, but still an absolutely brilliant film. Yeah, I'm a really big fan. I thought it was absolutely terrific, and I'm looking forward to doing number 4, which I hear is still quite okay. I've heard that 5 is the one where I need to make sure I bring lots of booze and prepare myself for a downward spiral, but we'll see. That's for another day. Right, until next time, take care of yourselves. Cheerio.